Welcome or welcome back to Cooking with Frenchy, cooking and baking made easy. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe, change your notification bell setting, and always read the comment on the show more section under this video, as you will find a link for my recipe. So this week it's all about charcuterie, or making pate or terrine. Terrine, the French word for anything that you do with other meat, generally meat and fats, and you create a pate, a mousse, or a parfait. But I'm going to show you how to make a beautiful terrine, the rillettes. They are a specialty from the west coast of France, nearly close to Paris, about an hour and a half, in the city of Le Mans. Very famous for the 24 hours car race, but also for the rillettes. Traditionally, the rillettes are made with pork and pork fat, but in this recipe, I make my own twist with chicken and duck. So make sure you watch it. I hope you like it. Always go to cookingwithfrenchy.com if you want the full recipe with all the ingredients and all the photos attached to it. So I'll see you after this. So here, as you can see, the fat is slightly rendering the duck and the chicken carcasses. So we start slowly. We don't want a very high heat. We're not doing a deep fry. That's what we slowly confit. The confit has to cook very, very slowly, like a simmering action into the dish. So be gentle to it. While this is happening, we're gonna chop more shallots and a little bit of garlic and all these little aromats that's really give a different flavor to your rillettes. So for this recipe, the rillette with chicken and duck, you will need around 1.5-1.7 kilos of flesh. So we got about 1.5 kilos of chicken and about 200-300 grams around that, about duck. Also, what you need to have, it's very, very important, it's your seasoning and aromats you are going to use. So we calculate about 28-30 grams of salt per kilo of flesh. Therefore, for this recipe, it's around 45 grams. And that's very important. If your rillettes are not seasoned properly, they are going to be not as good as they should be. So what I'm going to do is also add about 25 grain or whole black pepper and about 20 seeds of fennel here. I will also use a little bit of bay leaves and a full shallot at about 45 grams. 4 cloves of garlic, and that should be fine. Plus, I'm going to add about 200 ml of white wine. This is a Pinot Grigio. Pinot Gris. Bash your garlic. You don't really need to chop it. However, for your shallot, if you want to develop more flavor, really sizzle the shallot with your knife. Finally, dice. And that's pretty much ready. As you saw before, I just did the duck. Now I'm gonna add the chicken flesh. As you can see, my little simmering process is going quite well. And now we are going to check the rendering of the duck. Look at that, nice rendering. So it's slightly coming together. So now we can add the chicken, and I didn't want to add the chicken first because otherwise it will cool down the entire fat I put before, and as you can notice, I cook in a very heavy duty pan. So you can put all the chicken wings, chicken bones, chicken pieces. And we're going to bring that to simmer again and then add the aromats, the herbs, the garlic, the shallots and the white wine. After 20 minutes, make sure you turn your bone in your chicken. And your duck. Add your pepper and fennel seed. I didn't tell you before, but my secret ingredient is a little bit of thyme. Don't forget the salt. The shallot and the garlic and the bay leaves. As well as a good 200 ml of wine. And 200 ml of water.
Make sure the garlic, thyme and bay leaves are submerged into the liquid to have a nice flavor. Now you're there. Let confit slowly for 2 to 3 hours.
Now then you have cooled down the fat that we separate from the flesh and the bones of the chicken and the ducks. We need to reassemble that a little bit. So as you can see, the fat has settled but still a bit soft. So keep that cover. Put that aside. Also prepare a few terrines or jar, depending what you've got, and we're going to transfer the meat into a clean bowl to get rid of, so that's the leftover flesh, the carcasses, so I can recoup all the meat possible from it. Try to not have the gristles. So this riyette recipe really is a bit of a comfy. As you can see, the flesh is so tender, it breaks down easily. Try to remove the excess of skin and break down. That's our bone left over. Can I have a quick look? That you can discard it. It's been comfy in the fat. Now what you can do is to use a fork to really break down a little bit more your flesh. I don't like using the mixer for that. It breaks down a little bit too much. We want to effilocher the meat, just like so. Look at that. When this is done, capture about 200 grams back of your pork fat, duck fat. And what you see under here is a jelly of the cooking process. So the fat went on top, it cools down, and the jelly of the cooking process is there. This is beautiful. So I'm going to take a little bit of it and mix it to the meat. So you don't want too much fat, otherwise it's going to feel too greasy, but you need enough to preserve the meat a little longer and give that flavor. Rillettes are made of comfy meat or boiled meat. All you gotta do now is to check the seasoning of it. Beautiful, perfect. I'm gonna put this in the terrine and really press it down, avoiding air pocket. With a piece of clean paper. Really clean the top of your jar. Cover it. Back in the fridge for 1 hour. My rillette has now set in the fridge for an hour. So it's nice and firm. Look at that, beautiful. Just like my granddad used to do. And honestly, I have jokes about my grandmother, because she never bakes, but my granddad used to cook a lot. So here I'm using a little bit of duck fat. Just to seal the top of my terrine. The duck fat's going to make a natural protection. So that's enough. The rest can go here. I will go back in the fridge. Voila. I'm sure you recognize those little jars. Confiture bonne maman, la confiture que j'aime autant.